The thing in Greece is that we always give more attention to the atmosphere of the song rather than the aggressiveness. For us, releasing the Crossing the Fairy Path, we feel very content, very, very satisfied, extremely happy at that day, but we never felt that what we did then will have an impact in the future. Now we have in social media the keyboard warriors that can say bullshit about you and never see you again, never see you ever face to face.
Yeah.
Back in the days, you were saying, 2 centuries ago, you were saying, shit, you went up in dueling and maybe get hurt or die.
Obscured by the sun, cursed and fallen, infernal life under a hellish sky, through the shades of a fiery darkness.
This is kind of going to be one of the things that I was most interested in talking to you about and getting your perspective on, because I touched on some of it with Sakis, but you kind of came up in the same generation that he did. I was a couple of years after you. I was, at the time that you started Necromantia, I was 9 years old. So I had just discovered AC/DC, but I wasn't, black and death metal was still some years off. But, life around that time in the scene was very, very different. It was tape trading, writing letters, and things like interviews. I mean, if interviews were done, they were done in writing, in zines. There was a real shroud of mystery around the scene and around key figures in the scene. And you've kind of come through that whole evolution of, the paper zines gave way to the websites, which ultimately gave way to the podcasts, and kind of here we are. And I know you've been on Iblis Manifestations and you've been on a couple of other podcasts, but as a guy who kind of came from that old school, and I think who probably, if I, based on the what little I know about you, values privacy, and actually I think would probably value some of the mystery of the old days. What's your thoughts? What's your take on the way the scene is now, the way you kind of engage with your audience in such a completely different way now to what you were doing 30 years or 35 years ago?
Look, the thing is that technology gives us a lot of advantages. Okay, not only in look how the recording has progressed. I mean, the recording studios and everything. Listen to the sounds that bands now have. Even a medium band can have a very good sound. So, in a way, I kind of miss the old days, because if you wanted to get engaged in it, you had to put a lot of effort. That means a lot of dedication. Now that things are easier, everybody can engage. It's just for fun. It's just for anything. So what I miss from the old days is the dedication we had. I mean, for us, every Friday when we went to the post office to open our PO box and stuff, it was like a kid opening his Christmas presents or something like that. Okay, having the demos and everything. Now everything is on our plate, actually on our screen. And this sometimes makes you not appreciative of things. If it's very easy to get, sometimes you don't appreciate it. So from the old days, I miss the dedication. But in other sense, there are a lot of people that are engaging with what I do today, and because they have access. So I'm okay with it. To tell you the truth, I start realizing what's happening when I started with Euphoria. Before your theory, I didn't even know what Spotify was. I didn't engage with that, and I don't like much the streaming services and everything, but I know that they are necessary today for people to be able to get your music. But when we got an album back then, we listened the whole album, we read the lyrics, we checked the cover, we checked the thank list, everything. It was like days of working with the album that we bought. Now people get one song from each album and that's it sometimes. It has happened to me that I asked a guy who was wearing a shirt, I don't want to share the band, okay, which album do you like? He said, album? What do you mean album? I like songs. I was like, whoa, okay, different generation.
That is definitely very different. And for me, I think some of the most fun and the most adventure that you had as a young buck in the extreme scene was, you know, it was one thing to get into Metallica and Slayer and Megadeth, as you know, because you know you could within to a reasonable degree, you could get magazines with interviews, know, with those bands, and you know you could see them on the television if you had cable TV. But when you got into underground stuff, when you got into black metal and death metal, it was a different story altogether. And I remember distinctly, and that's why I smiled when you were talking about studying the music and studying the lyrics, because the other thing, of course, that you studied was the thank you list. Because every single band mentioned in that thank you list is like, all right, I'm going to cross-reference that with what's in the Nuclear Blast catalog, and I'm going to start ticking off what I can buy. And that's how you discovered things. And I absolutely agree with you that I see it in my daughter to a lesser degree. She's actually interestingly quite into collecting vinyl, even though she's only 11 years old. She's quite into that. But most of the younger generation, they don't know what it feels like to save up your money, buy a record or buy CDs, and attach that level of value to it. Like, I think if your blood, sweat, and tears doesn't go into something, you're never going to value it as highly as you would something that you could just get on demand. And then
yes, exactly. You don't appreciate things. I mean, when I was at school and I was doing vacation in the summer, sometimes I worked to gather money to go in September and buy albums. I saved my money for September.
I remember that very well too. You know, I would save up. So a friend of mine, I grew up in South Africa, just to give you the context. My friend and I used to save up as much money as we could, and normally around the middle of the year, we would order about 3 or 4 boxes worth of stuff from Nuclear Blast in Germany. But obviously, you know, these were the days where calling, you know, you had to call overseas. It was very expensive. Our parents wouldn't allow it under any circumstances. So my friend would walk around in the center of town on the high street and go to shops and tell the store owners or the managers that he needed to call his parents to come and pick him up. Would they allow him to use the phone in the back? And they would say yes, it's fine. And he would sit there in the back, call Nuclear Blast, and start placing the order until they chase him away. Then he goes to the next shop and does the same thing. But then, you know, that anticipation when you know that box is on its way, and you know, you unpack it and it's Moonspell, Rotting Christ, Samael, Necromantia, and it's like, you know, it's just this whole world that opens to you. And there was just nothing like it. It's, you know, I am very sorry that my daughter, as an example, and you know, if I have more kids, they will never get to experience the thrill of that moment when you hear that record for the first time. Like, I remember hearing King of a Stellar War for the first time. I remember hearing the Ceremony of Opposites. Like, you know, as soon as that song starts, or the album starts with Black Trip, you're just like, holy shit. And you're kind of patting yourself on the back because we were buying music without having heard it. You know, you're just going based on what's in Metal Maniacs, what's in the thank you list, and does the album cover look cool?
And sometimes even if we buy something shitty, we listen it through the end to be sure that it's shitty.
Yeah. Or you'd listen to something and think it's rubbish when you first get it, and then you go, you kind of get to the end of it, you're like, this is not too bad. And then a month later, 2 months later, you're like, this is fucking brilliant. I definitely think, though, it also translates, and you kind of touched on it around the passion and the energy and the dedication. It translates to what you saw in audiences as well. Audiences nowadays, when you go to live shows, they still enjoy themselves and they're very energetic, but it's nothing like it used to be in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, those audiences were so rabid for their favorite bands, and it didn't matter whether it was a 200 person, or 200 capacity venue, or it was a 20,000 capacity arena.
Mm-hmm.
But when that band came on stage, people lost their fucking shit. It felt dangerous to be there.
It's also this also is a result of too many live shows. Too many. I mean, in Greece, which is not Central Europe, and I don't know, we have 15 shows per month of metal. Back in the days, we have one per 3 months. One. And some local bands, of course, but from the I remember when we first saw the first Sodom live in 1987, something like that. And it was like the event of the century. And it was a Sodom live show. But we felt that it was the event of the century for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, anybody who's older than 25 or 30 years old, they'll remember a time where the only real festival was Dynamo.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember what a big deal Dynamo was. Like in Dynamo 1993 had Gore Fest on stage. They had that on the Death Is Just the Beginning 3 video as well. And I remember seeing that and going, that must be the most incredible thing you could ever experience. Obviously, living in South Africa, you're a step removed from that. So in your wildest dreams, you could never imagine actually being there and seeing that. And obviously, later on, I got to do all these things with the podcast, but it also made me appreciate it so much more when it actually happened for me. So how old were you when you discovered, not even metal, but when you developed an interest in music?
You mean listening or playing?
Listening. So what's your first memory of experiencing music and really kind of feeling a connection to music?
In my house, they were listening to music, Greek music, classical music. So I had an interest since I was a small kid. I really like classical music. I mean, I remember every Sunday there was on TV classical music, and I was wearing my dad's jacket to feel official, and I was playing the maestro. When I was 6 or 5 or something like that. So I was into music since I remember myself. But there were two facts that direct me more into hard rock and metal. There was one was a forgotten tape of a cousin of my mother in a warehouse, and it was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Her cousin forgot the tape there, and I went to it was my grandma's cousin. I said, "What is that?" I was 13 or 12. He said, "That's a tape of some of the music your mother's cousin likes." I played the tape. I was blown away. And the second thing.
Getting emails coming through thick and fast. They say, "Are you talking to that Jackie from Into the Necrosphere? You need to cut that short."
And the second thing was when my cousins from USA came in Greece, and they brought some tapes with them. Although it's not that extreme stuff. It was the first album of Bon Jovi and the Def Leppard Pyromania. in a, a company tape. From there on, it's history.
It's interesting you talk about Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, because one thing that, if you go back and you listen to a lot of the old Greek black metal, and actually you hear it to this day, I can hear it in your new material, you can hear it throughout Rotten Christ's discography. There is that love of like old school heavy metal, like almost sort of stadium size heavy metal, you know what I mean? That is ever present in all of the most influential Greek black metal bands, and in many ways it kind of gives it a more epic feel than your Scandinavian counterparts, but it also, I think, gives it a very distinct personality. And if I know a lot, fair few Greek people, and I feel like the Greek personality, the Greek culture, really shines through in Greek black metal in a similar way to the way the kind of Scandinavian, the Norwegian mindset comes through in Norwegian black metal. But there's a very distinct identity in it, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, you see, in Greece, everybody grew up with similar bands, either in Scandinavia or Greece. You can see now how Fenris rediscovers heavy metal the last years. Each one of us grew up with the same bands, more or less. The thing in Greece is that we always gave more attention to the atmosphere of the song rather than the aggressiveness. So we tried to have a more melodic, more atmospheric sound, each one of us in their own way. And I think this is what it distinguished us from the Scandinavian scene, because at that time there were two scenes, the Scandinavian and the Greek. There were bands in other countries, of course, but no scenes. The scenes were two, and they were very different. Second thing is that Greek bands always tried, at least my generation, even now I think, try to find their own place in the scene, meaning their own sound, their own identity. So everybody tried to create his own sound and not copy the others. This is another big difference from the Norwegian scene, because from the time when Darkthrone released the Transylvania and the Blazing in the Northern Sky, there were hundreds of bands playing in this type of music, in this early Bathory Celtic Frost stuff. In Greece, it didn't happen. I mean, there were no bands playing Greek Rotting Christ or Necromantia or Marathon. Sure, they had elements because simply we did it first, but they tried to find their own sound. And what you said about the bands that we were listening to, yeah, it's true that we listened to these bands. I grew up with rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and then it was thrash, death, black, etc. So my progress into extremity was there were grades, and I still appreciate hard rock as much as I appreciate maybe some black metal bands. But I think that as I said, both scenes, because we were of similar age, grew up with the same bands. It's what they decided to put in their own music, I think. I mean, in Greece, we were paying less attention to shock value and aggressiveness. We were trying to pay more attention to creating music than shock people. As
an outsider, observing through books and interviews and conversations that I've had with various people. It was also, especially in those early days where you had the chaos and the craziness and some of the crime associated with the Scandinavian scene, the Greek scene was completely different. It was much more unified. You guys were certainly not involved in any of the church burnings and things like that, even though there was an occult element to what you were doing. Well, talk to me from your perspective. How did you experience those early days of the Hellenic black metal scene?
The thing is, there were some satanic murders at our time, and authorities tried, or at least made a research about it, a connection with the black metal bands of Greece, because there was some guys that did some ritual murders, but they were not members of any band or anything like that. Police tried to explore all the angles, so for a time we were in a rough situation here in Greece back then, for a year or so. Then they realized that none of us, as far as I know, was involved in any criminal activity, so they stopped bothering. You said yes, we were more unified as a scene. I mean, we were gathering every Saturday at a record store, not called Helvete, it was called Rock City. And we started exchanging, demos, vinyls, fanzines, tapes, everything like that. And there was this family feeling that is lost now, of course, because of our age, our era is like that. So we were like a huge company of people loving and sharing the same passion. And that's kind of thing I miss too, also.
Yeah, Sakis described it to me as, you all had to look out for each other, because it was so difficult to do anything. You were geographically, it wasn't just a question of jumping on the bus or jumping on a train if you wanted to go, outside of Greece and play shows. And obviously the scene inside Greece was quite small. So, everyone had to kind of look out for and support each other, which was, I really liked when he told me that.
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, I mean, going outside of Greece, besides the paperwork, as you said, you had to cross borders and not you had to take a plane and everything like that. So it was very, very difficult. And that's why I said we had this kind of family feeling in a way. Family takes care of each other.
Describe for me the first time that you met Baron Blood, because I mean he was a man that was so important in terms of your musical evolution, your career, and just the scene generally. What was that first meeting like? What was your impressions of him when you first met him?
It was at school. He was 1 year younger than me. So we met at school because he was a huge guy. His physique was huge. Wearing a big manowar back patch. So that's how we connected. We connected because we share similar interests in music. And we approached each other, and then we hung out, etc., etc. And then we realized that we share other passions too besides music, like the occult, like smoking cigars or drinking good whiskey, good cognac, and whiskey we don't like. And we shared a lot of interests together. So at one time, he said, okay, we should make a band. But we are both bass players. So that's a problem. But afterwards, we said, no, it's not a problem. We do it like that. We will do something that nobody has done. And that's why we started Necromantia.
You mentioned the occult side of things, and obviously that's something that's also been incredibly influential in your work and in your music. One thing that I was wondering, did you grow up in a Greek Orthodox home? Was kind of Greek Orthodox religion a part of your childhood growing up?
Yes, it was, but my parents were not fanatics.
Okay. And so how old were you?
They were the average Greek Orthodox Christian.
Yeah. So at what age did your interest in the occult develop, or did you start, again, as we were talking earlier about the connection to music, when did you start to feel connected to the occult?
An early age too, around 12. Around 12, I started wondering, because I got through horror literature. I remember there was a novel by Graham Masterton, which I wrote when I was in 6th grade, 12 years old. It was The Demons of Normandy. I don't know if it's the English title, but it was about a demon that was entrapped in a bag sealed magically in a tank from the Second World War. It was full metaphysical. It was rather scary because at 12 years old, it scared the shit out of me. But at the same time, it attracted me very much. And then I started, from 13, 14, started researching things, buying occult magazines, reading occult books, in a very general way of the occult, a very broad pattern, and not specifically. In years coming, I found my own path, which is, I would say, the left-hand path, but nowadays it has several meanings. It was towards the darker side, which I don't consider evil in the way Christians do. I do consider it hidden. And then my whole, as I was researching, because I tried a lot of stuff from Kabbalah, runes, paganism, I practically have tried, or at least got in contact with, almost everything. And then I developed my own path. My own path is towards the darker side, towards the infernal side. Let's not say dark and light, because there's light in the darkness too. And I decided that this is for me. That's how I connect with the metaphysical. Because I have often said I operate in two levels. The physical, everyday life. I'm a complete atheist and agnostic. And the metaphysical, which I'm a Luciferian and Draconian. So the thing that happens, the real interesting things, the magic, as we say, it happens when these two levels collide, when one is entering each other. And after, I feel really content now to say that I know for me what's happened. At least most of it.
What lay at the heart, do you think, of that attraction to reading darker literature, or to having an interest in reading horror and stuff like that? Because I mean, I can relate to that as well. I remember at a very young age, just for whatever reason, and I still sometimes mull over what exactly it was in my makeup that made it that way, because I grew up in a very Christian household. There was nothing in my upbringing that should have influenced me towards being interested in horror, as an example. But the first time that I could pick up a book about ghosts or demon possession or anything like that, I was just hooked, and I just couldn't get enough of it. It was nothing in my life that steered me in that direction, other than my own nature. And I've often wondered why that was. So I was curious as to what you felt it was that drew you as a result to that novel.
For me, it's the same. It's exactly the same. I mean, I didn't grow up in a weird family. I didn't have any weird images. My parents loved me, behaved me very nice. I have no complaints. But it's, for some reason, I got attracted to it. That's what you exactly said. It's sometimes it's in your nature. I mean, I feel comfortable in
that. Was there a lot of resistance from your parents as to the path that you chose?
No. As long as I didn't involved in any criminal activity, no.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that that I definitely had a lot of, and honestly, to this day, probably still do to a degree. I think my parents now accept who I've become, but yeah, certainly when I was first getting into this kind of music, I reckon the day my mom heard Painkiller coming out of my room, she must have thought the fires of hell have descended upon our house.
No, it's because. Let's say English-speaking people have this culture. In Greece, nobody knew what heavy metal was. Just noise, the noise music that some kids like. They didn't have the culture, this is the devil's music because they sing about Satan. Nobody knew. The parents didn't know. They said just some city music my kid likes. But they didn't know the concept behind it.
Yeah.
It was not in our culture.
Yeah. But I mean, you can still hear though in if we take Painkiller as an example. I mean, there is something that sounds sinister about that song. Now, it could also be my connection to it or the way I relate to it. But yeah, like 100%, there's just something that sounds evil about that song, like in the best possible way.
Okay, what's evil?
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's why I said I think it could be around how I relate to it as well.
Yeah, I mean it would be dynamic, scary, powerful, but it's not evil. It wouldn't hurt you.
Yeah. That's. I think that's a fair point. So tell me, how old were you when you decided to pick up? Because you mentioned, meeting Baron Blood. You were already playing bass. How old were you when you started to play bass?
No, I started playing around 16.
So by the time that you started Necromantia, you'd been playing for around about 3 years?
About, yeah.
Yeah. How did it feel for you being at a point where you could release like your first record, having come up in the ranks like you've done on the eve of putting out Crossing the Fiery Path? How did that feel for you?
We didn't feel, maybe Sakis told you also, we didn't feel we were doing something that will have an impact later. We only want to have our music released. We were living the now. We never thought about the future. And it's a big thing for us to have an album released by a foreign label, not a Greek one. For us, releasing the Crossing the Fiery Path, we feel very content, very, very satisfied, extremely happy at that day, but we never felt that what we did then will have an impact in the future. No one did from us, not Varatron, not Antichrist, not us. We were living for the day.
When did that start to change for you? Like, when did you start to realize in the way that you were engaging with people, speaking to fans? Like, when did you start to get a sense of how much influence you had as a musician, as a songwriter, and as an artist on, I mean, firstly the local scene, but then more broadly across the globe?
To tell you the truth, we're extremely late. When we started making, there's a book about Necromantia, the biography of Necromantia that has been released. And this is the time because the biographer was talking with lots of people and bands and stuff, that I realized that what we did, it has a bigger impact in the scene. Because the way people that were only, let's say, successful, known in the scene, they were giving credit to our work. And I was like, wow, no, we did something. Huh? I mean, we did something that stayed. And because I don't play live shows, when we made the release party for the last album of Necromantia in another city, not Athens, and people came and talked to me how our first demo, our first promo, how they have experienced it when they first heard it, and what did they felt. That's when I realized what impact our music did to the audience and to musicians of a similar. Very late.
Did that influence?
Because you see, I never cared what other people think about my music. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care about sales ever, because it's not my profession. It's not my work. It's my passion. It's my hobby. So, and since as I said, I don't play live shows, except some few with Erotic Rights in the past, I didn't have the feedback. And I did, so I realized very late what we did in early 90s, what impact had in the whole scene.
And just again, for context, for anybody that doesn't know, you're talking about The Serpent and the Pentagram, which came out in 2023. So it is literally like 3 years ago that you realized. I mean, I can speak for me. Necromantia has always been like a staple in music I've listened to. It's always kind of been in the background. I remember as far back as, again, when I talk about these Nuclear Blast catalog days, I remember seeing the album covers to Crossing the Fiery Path, Scarlet Evil, Witching Black. I saw the early Thou Art Lord in there, and obviously Rotting Christ as well. Massively influential band for me. But there's absolutely no question that what you achieved and the legacy that you laid down with those bands will endure for many, many, many years, beyond both your and my time on Earth.
Yeah, and as I told you, it's something that I realized now. I mean, I remember when we compiling the book, and the biographer Fenris sent to a friend of mine a photo holding the first tape I have sent him back then in the 1990. And he sent a photo holding the tape. I was like, fuck, did you keep this all these years? I have lost most of my demos. And that's when I realized that our music touched some people the way it was supposed to be touched.
How does that affect you as a songwriter, or is it something that you kind of put to the side? Because if I reflect, for example, on the new album, and as we're recording this, we're 3 days away from the album being officially released. There's a real energy, there's a youthful energy in the music that you've put out on this record. It sounds like, I often talk about this because I think it's so difficult for somebody who's been doing this for such a long time and who's been so prolific musically, in terms of the number of releases they've put out, to continually put out stuff that still stays engaging, still sounds like you want to do it. But I mean, there's no question, listening to Daemonosophia, there's a real hunger and an appetite, and the other thing that's exciting about it, as somebody who's followed you for a long time, is you're doing a lot of new things as well. But getting back to my original question, and I know I've gone in a big roundabout here, but Does it impact you at all knowing that you have that legacy and that you have a lot of people that look up to you in the scene, or do you put that aside when you're writing new music?
No, I put that aside. I put that aside because, I never want to be dictated by my audience on what I will play. I play what I want at that time, what I feel good. And for me, the first thing about a new album is that I like it. The musicians who played like it. And then it's the people. If they like it, great. If they don't, still great. I'm sure that there are some who like it. The thing about the energy you said, it's, when Nergal from Behemoth was here and we had a dinner or something, and he asked me, how old are you exactly? I was like 50, now 56. Fuck, and you still have this urge to play, to create music. I said, yes. If this stops, I will stop creating music. It's simple. If I lose this hunger, this thirst for creating music, then I will stop, because I will not be able to create something good that I would like, that I would think it's good. It's true that the new album, now that I listen it as a listener and not as a maker, it has this kind of younger energy in a way. It just happened. I don't know why.
Testosterone replacement therapy.
But no, I'm too old for that.
You did though, and I'm curious to find out from your perspective whether you think I'm right about this or not. But it does feel like, in some ways, releasing To the Depths We Descend was kind of a closing of a chapter for you, and then
Yes.
that, in a way, that unshackled you creatively, because straight after that, you started releasing loads of albums. I think you've done 4 in that time, and that's 2021.
You mean the albums of the Magus and the Euphoria stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know because I watched you on Iblis Manifestations. There's more coming as well. So you're absolutely in a creative groundswell at the moment.
Yeah, this year, yes, I really am. The thing is that during the COVID period, it's when things clicked for me, because I had quiet, free time, concentrate on music. Because our jobs were closed, everything was working in a very necessary level. So that gave me a lot of free time, because if I don't have free time, I cannot write music. If the obligations of everyday life consume me, then no, I will write something shitty for me. And
so it had more to do with COVID than that kind of end of an era with Necromantia and putting out To the Depths We Descend.
It was Necromantia, Depths We Descend. It was in the end of an era, because Baron Blood departed, so I had to put an end to it. But what it unlocked again my musical flame was the quiet period of COVID, because I had time to work on music. So yes, that's when it started exploding. It hasn't stopped since, but at some point, I'm sure it will.
I was going to ask you. It certainly doesn't seem that way based on what the rate at which you're putting out music right now. But do you find it difficult to write songs? Has it become harder for you to write a song that you're satisfied with than it was for you to do 20 years or 30 years ago?
No, it's easier. It's easier to write songs that I'm satisfied now. Easier. it's easier to write the bass and then take it from there. It's because and now after all these years, I know how to make what I exactly want in my mind. And besides experience, it's also now we have the technology to do it. And what do I mean? I don't have to go to an expensive studio to record some demos. I can do it at home. So that it's more easy for me to lay the base for a new song and then take it from there and make it a great song. That's more difficult, of course, but it's for more easily for me to put things in line.
Yeah, get the core idea down and then start to expand upon that.
It will be very easy for us, and because they are the other members of the band are very experienced musicians and a lot of years in the scene, to write something that it is that sounds like any successful black metal band there is. It will be very easy for us, but we don't want that. I mean, we make music because we want to create something that we love, something that we're satisfied with. Not because, as I said, it's not a profession, and we don't have to put out an album necessarily every 3 years to go on tour. So we have this artistic freedom because we are still amateurs to do what we like.
Yeah, I think for me, like, one of the basic tenets of black metal should be individualism and doing something because you feel personally compelled or motivated or inspired to do it. I've never understood I saw this a lot during COVID, just with people on an individual level, but you also see it in the music. There's a lot of I'm trying to find the word, acquiescence. There's a lot of compliance. There's a lot of bands that will play a certain style, say certain things in public just because they want to fit in, or it seems they want to fit into a larger crowd. And to me, that's never been black metal. There's more black metal in something like Galsweird, where he's singing clean for the whole album, but I mean, there's still the feeling of black metal is in there. And Daemonosophia is an album that is, I mean, it's so diverse and so varied, and there's elements of it that's cinematic. There's like American folk horror that's in it. There's elements that remind me of King Diamond, but there's so many different things that you're kind of putting in there. But I think the reason why all of it works is because it genuinely sounded like that is what you were inspired to do at the time. It's an authentic expression of you as an artist in 2026 or 2025, whenever you recorded it.
At least it's something that I'm very happy when I listen to it. I'm very satisfied with the whole process. A friend of mine from band, I will not say name again, he told me, I like that you play so diverse in your albums, because in our albums we cannot, because the audience will not approve it, and we will have problem money-wise. This is slavery for me. The artist should be free to do what he likes. I mean, if he does what he likes, is when he will truly make something great. When I was a sound engineer, there was a band, a Greek band, small one, asked me, what should we have to play in order to sell? I said, fuck, man, if you ask this, you will never going to sell. None of the bands that sell, either it's Black Sabbath or Behemoth or Dimmu Borgir, let's say the most commercial black metal ones, never ask that question. They just played and it happened. At least in the first years.
Yeah, the second you start trend chasing, you're going after something that is going to go away, and at some point people will look back at it and go, well, why the fuck were we into that? Whereas if you just stick with your convictions and your, your artistic integrity, that's something that'll never go away, because that is just who you are.
I mean, you lose the artistic flavor of your music, because every music, because we release CDs, they sell CDs, we release vinyls which are selling, so it's a product in a way. All the releases are products, but if you lose this creative, this artistic creation, this passion, then you are just a product only. You are like Korean pop, which are products. They are not musicians. They are not bands. Very successful. They earn a lot of money, but they are products.
But it is. I mean, Korean pop is one step away from AI. I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
I
once there was a podcast with Billy Corgan and Sharon Osbourne, and Corgan, the Smashing Pumpkins guy, was saying, he said, I've been to Korea and I see how this industry works. There are some people that are writing choruses, some people that are writing the other parts, some people that write the lyrics, and there's a producer goes and says, I want this chorus, this verse, this, and makes one song that he thinks it will sell. It's a product. It's an industry. It's nothing to do with music.
Yeah. Well, which is so interesting if you think about South Korean art, because their movies and many of their TV shows are way better than the slop that's turned out by Hollywood.
True.
Like South Korean movies like Old Boy, The Wailing, Bedeviled, they're turning out really tier 1 horror movies, really original stuff, interesting, but then their music is the exact opposite, like the worst of the worst, just conveyor belt nonsense that just sounds, as you say now.
I think that the government is also marketing the Korean pop as a national product.
Yeah, which is interesting, and then that's when you end up with nonsense like K-pop Demon Hunters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, this song was good. I liked it.
I mean, you are very much a man, and I think all of the impressions that I'd had of you before we spoke tonight, I think of all in the best possible way come to fruition as we're talking. But you're a man who very much marches to the beat of his own drum. One of the things that you do that is very, very unusual is fencing. How long have you been interested in that, and have you been involved in that sport for?
I started fencing kind of late, when I was 24. Sport fencing, Olympic fencing. Now my son does Olympic fencing. And I switched to historical fencing shortly after. Why? Because first of all, I like history. Then I like to hit people with swords. So I combined these two. Luckily, there are other people who like to hit people with swords, and we hit each other. So I combined these two things because I love swords as objects and history. And I'm now in historical fencing. I'm around 22 years now. It's kind of my work. I teach that. I like it because it has a sporty attitude, first of all. As I said, I like to hit people with swords. I like to hit people with real swords, because what we use in historical fencing is real, concerning the anatomy and the weight and the length of the weapon. But it's made this way so I will not kill the other guy because I want to spar with him tomorrow too. Yes, it combines history and swords and gives you an idea of what, because the weapons for every civilization are very important, and around them there's also, you see how the communities and the social structures were when they were practicing. I mean, now we have in social media the keyboard warriors that can say bullshit about you and never see you again, never see you ever face to face.
Yeah.
Back in the days, you were saying, I mean, 2 centuries ago, you were saying, shit, you went up in dueling and maybe get hurt or die. It's interesting how societies were and how they have changed, progressed, transformed, changed. And you can see it through their weapons they produce.
There definitely was an order to things that, I would say for the most part, modern life, sometimes people look at modern society and go, it's the worst it's ever been. I don't really think that that's true. In terms of medical technology, in terms of our quality of life, it's better than it's ever been. But what's lacking is the order that was brought by natural, I don't know if you call it natural instinct, or just just the natural structure to things. Like you said before, if in the 1800s you said something bad about somebody, there was a very good chance there would be serious consequences, and so people were polite and they minded their manners around each other. Even if you look at politics and you listen to political debate from the 1950s and the 1960s, it's very civil. They're disagreeing with each other, but they're very civil. There's none of the screaming, none of the craziness, none of the nonsense that you see on the news.
Yeah,
I feel like in some ways it's almost like society has squeezed this bottle a little bit too much, and how all this crap has come out of the bottle, and it's impossible to put it back in.
I think a society is on a trail to apocalypse. Is on a trail to destruction, because I think that humans are a very defective species. They never learn from their mistakes, and they are also a very self-destructive species. So yes, the end will come. I don't know which will fall, but it will come. Will something better come out of it? Maybe, maybe not. I'm really disappointed from humanity.
Well, you and me both. And again, the human race is nothing if not a species that, when we go down a certain road, I mean, if you're an observer and you're looking at what's going on, you can see it's happening, and people can be standing by the roadside screaming, "Don't go down that! Don't go down that alley! There's nuclear war and disease and famine and all sorts of horrors at the end of that road," and they just keep on trudging down.
Exactly. And we fucked up everything that starts with good intentions, from nuclear power to AI.
Yeah,
AI will fuck everything. It started, the idea is great, but the use that we will do will be shitty as always.
Yeah. You hear all these stories about, AI is going to create abundance for all, universal high income, everyone's going to be rich. I sat thinking about that today, and I thought to myself, if we were all to receive as much money as not as much money as we want, but a significant amount of money, if everyone were to be given enough money to indulge their every desire, can you imagine the chaos and not just the chaos, but the depravity in society that would unleash?
Exactly. Have you seen the TV show Pluribus?
No.
Check it, because I'm not spoiling anything here, but it's in the first episode. Something happens. I will not tell you how, and all the people become one. All the whole population of Earth becomes one hive mind. One.
I remember seeing the trailer for it. Because it's got that woman from Better Call Saul, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's except 12 people. 12 people are still individuals. All the others are one. I mean, there are many, but they are one. And it's very interesting how a society like that would be.
Yeah. It feels like sometimes that's what the governments are trying to push us down very much kicking and screaming, but there's enough people that support it or that just won't care or will be too ignorant to see it happening that they'll succeed. That's what makes me despondent. It's that I can see hope, but I can see hope dying because there's not enough. It just doesn't feel like there's enough energy to push back against the coming of the rising tide.
I tell you, there's no hope. And I have a kid who's 12 years old, and I don't know what to tell him.
Just you say to him, learn how to use that sword, mate, because there's no hope.
I don't know.
Listen, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on a fantastic album. I know you've got some other exciting stuff happening this year as well. And hopefully at some point we can catch up with each other again down the road. But it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much.
Actually, the thing that end of the month, Faust is coming to Greece to record drums for the Hexbane project.
Oh, hell yes.
So it's the first time Greece and Norway come together.
Yeah. So what have you got? Well, I mean, just in terms of the pipeline stuff that you can that you can share, what have you got coming aside from this new Magus album?
It's, as I tell you, it's a Hexbane project, which is it's me, George Emmanuel from Lucifer's Child, Taz from Friends of Hell, ex-Electric Wizard on bass, and Faust on drums from. Faust, everybody knows Faust.
Yeah.
From Emperor. But we will rejuvenate Thou Art Lord. And with a killer lineup besides me and Sakis, which I cannot reveal yet.
But I think you said to Cheyenne, people are gonna lose their shit when they see it.
Yes, they are.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, my friend, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will speak again soon.
Okay, man. Thank you too. Bye.
Thank you, brother.
Inside
Wrapping up a fantastic conversation with the man himself. You just heard a track called Chapel of Iniquities. It is taken from the brand new album by the Magus. The album is entitled Daemonosophia, available on Circle Music, and as is my usual custom, I will post the link to the Magus Bandcamp in the description to the podcast. So if you enjoyed what you heard, head over there, buy yourself some music, and you let the man know who it was who sent you. He is more than welcome to return to Into the Necrosphere. I believe that you will all agree that was a fantastic conversation, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did recording it. Right now, though, no need to move a muscle because you have at least an hour and a half's worth of scintillating, sinister entertainment coming your way before we get to the Weekly News Rant, where I will be joined by the mighty Matt Priso from Conspiracy X, Spells of Torment, Sick, and who knows what else he's involved in nowadays. I need to give you guys, as is the standard on this show, a dose of unsanctioned filth. This week we turn to a friend of mine, actually, Alex from Abhorrent Guitars. Many of you follow him on Instagram. He does some absolutely superb work, by the way. So if you're in the market for a new axe, you might want to check him out. Custom-made stuff, absolutely incredible pieces, and he's done work for Cheyenne from Trivax, for a bunch of other people. So, you know, the man is totally legit. Anyway, he dropped me a note to say that I need to check out a band, a one-man black metal project by a friend of his based out of Pennsylvania. The project is called Death Ritual. He has just put out an EP on Bandcamp called Through Siege and Attrition. And for your listening pleasure, this is Will of Iron. Joining the ranks of the legends who have featured on the Unsanctioned Filth segment on this podcast, that was Death Ritual, taken from an EP called Through Siege and Attrition. The song you just heard was Will of Iron. Their Bandcamp link will be in the description to the podcast, and I want to say big thanks to Alex from Abhorrent Guitars for the shout out. Definitely an EP you need to check out. Really good stuff. I mean, record labels, wake the fuck up. This is a band I would sign straight away. I keep threatening it, but you guys are going to push me towards starting my own label and putting all of you out of business. A quick reminder, by the way, that you can check out all of the bands that I have featured on the Unsanctioned Filth segment, certainly for the last 5-6 months, along with episode playlists, the links to all my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. All of it is available to you right now on intothenecrosphere.com. There's a contact form on there as well. If you have a question for the Weekly News Rant, if you want to submit any of your music for me to check out, whatever you want to do, you can get in touch with me on there. And again, a reminder about the Horsemen, just in case you might be new to this, we've got Brandon Legion and Horrorwolf 666 coming your way on a Monday. We've got your first double shot on a Wednesday, Everything Went Black with Mike Hill, Iblis Manifestations with Cheyenne. We've got another double shot on the Thursday, Necromaniacs. That comes your way courtesy of Mike Hill, Mike Scondado, and Jeff Kashid. We've also got your first of 2 installments of Soul Knox for the week. The second, of course, comes your way on a Sunday, and that's hosted by the sinister minister Carl Haikara. So loads of podcasts for you to check out. If you like heavy metal, if you like black metal, death metal, horror movies, and all sorts of dark shit, we have got you covered without a shadow of a doubt. Speaking of having you covered, I've also got you covered for the latest metal news headlines. I'm going to dig into that with my friend Matt Priso very shortly. But before I do, I've got a very important public service announcement that I have to share with all of you. If you are one of the perpetually offended whose little feelings were hurt by the Buffalo Bill character in the classic movie Silence of the Lambs, then take your shit and hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
Round them up for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
Matt Priso, welcome back to Into the Necrosphere. It's been a while, my man. How's everything going?
Everything is it's been a minute. I can't remember last time I was on, but I appreciate you having me on.
I think it must have been about maybe 7-8 months.
Yeah, it feels like longer, man. I don't know. I lose track of time. So much shit going on. Yeah, man. Very busy. Very busy. Work is probably like the most heaviest at the moment. The last 6 to 8 months. Just concentrate on my sort of career. I wouldn't even say that. It's just been sort of happening in the background. So just it's very heavy down this way. I work at the largest power station in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's coming out to closure in 2029. So there's a lot of plans and strategies being changed and stuff like that. So it's about getting up to speed. We've closed them down, and also Afterlife.
Is that going to impact? Will that impact you or impact your job when the power station closes?
Oh, there's a potential, but in my role, like I run all site services, so I look after around about 30 to 40 people on site, which is so that's going to be needed afterlife once they do shut the turbines down and then the dismantle. So it is a huge site. To dismantle that site would take there's not. I couldn't even give a time frame. It is that big, but it's about the regeneration of the land, sort of giving back to the indigenous peoples to do their stuff. So I'm very heavily involved in land rehabilitation as well. So I delve in a whole bunch of areas with external community, on site, with plant. So I've got a very like varied role, which I like, because it's just there's never a dull day. No one else wants to do it, but I like it. But yeah.
So in response to all of these professional responsibilities this year, you're scaling back the number of albums you're putting out to 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, I'll let some other bands have a go. No. There's some stuff in the play. Like I'd say last 4 months, it's just been art, because it's just the influx of commissions and bands reaching out, and it's good. It's like a lot of hard work I've put into creating that platform for myself on the art stage, which is I love it. It's always been a hobby. I still try to keep it as a hobby. Don't want to make it a job. It's when you lose the passion and the creativity, you start dreading it. So, but it's been very, very, very heavy. I'm working at the moment with Shea Ballet in US with his next release, and that's a hardcover of Daemonosophia. It's like a grimoire or such. So I'm creating all the pieces for that, which will be later in the year coming out. So I've literally up to my last piece. I won't tell how many pieces I've done. It's a fucking lot, and it's in a short time frame. So again, it's been 10 weeks, and then there's been a lot there. Plus bands in the background doing stuff with Carl Drugoff, Mike Hill doing the film clip for Tombs in the past before that came out, and also some other special projects. Also just got hit up by it's going to be a side project. It has some members from Diarty's Murder and Cerebral Carnage doing a collaboration, so they want me to do the art for that. So I mean, it's heavy. It's a lot, and I can't wait to do some music because I've got Conspiracy X is underway, which will be trying to top the last EP, which will still be a full length. But it's been a progression. I think it's like 6 EPs we've done, but it's just about that journey of actually finding the right recipe, that really works. Because Ryan, he's never really been a Deafy Black kind of guitarist, and it's just been this transition of just trying to introduce him to different elements of that into his music and into Conspiracy X. And I think the last EP sort of showcase a little bit of that, so this one should be pretty good. And then of Abraxas Horn with Brandon and Mike Hill, we'll smash that out. That's getting in works in the background. And then I'm gonna send. I've got a little side fucking project. They want some shit done later in the year, so it's just and then possibly stuff with Evan. So it's a busy year coming up. It's just about planning, mate. That's work. It's planning, schedule, stick to it. But that's like a big everything I'm going to do in 5 minutes.
Dude, it's like I said, it doesn't sound like you got much by the way of free time. I know of a couple of folks that got to know you through the podcast that have also reached out and commissioned artwork. Friend of ours in a certain European country whose band I really like, and I know he's super happy with the stuff that you guys ended up with. I mean, I know there's a whole story behind that. We can talk about that nearer the release of that album. But no, man, I'm really glad for you. It's definitely it's fantastic news, and it's well deserved. I mean, I've said this many times before. You're a super talented artist. Not just as a musician, but an actual artist. And I'm really psyched for all of the success that you've had. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more.
Oh, there's going to be plenty more. Plus, there's in the background, I will say, just give a plug because big supporters of myself is Isaiah from Portugal, doing that guest spot. But there's something coming up with them as well, so stay tuned.
Oh, badass! All right. Cool. Well, let's jump into some music. The first headline on metalstorm.net grabbing my attention. Cruel Force unleash a new single entitled Savage Gods. It says here, as part of their next full-length release, Haneda, due out on March the 27th via Shadow Kingdom Records, my birthday, of course. Cruel Force have launched a music video for their latest single, Savage Gods. That previous single they put out got a lot of love on the show. So let's hear what this one sounds like. might have noticed a bit of a grin on my face as I was listening to that. Thrash to me right now, modern thrash, is in this weird place where there's so much music coming out and so much being released within the genre. Much of it is completely unlistenable rubbish. It's either stuff you've heard before, or it's old bands that are just, retreading ideas they've done 1,000 times before, or sounding overproduced and boring. But once every so often there's a band that puts out something that just absolutely fucking nails it. And when you hear a band like Fugitive, or you hear a band like Cruel Force, you kind of remember why you loved thrash, why certainly for me, probably the same for you, why you grew up loving thrash.
It was part of your menu. Yeah, it's part of your daily menu. Well,
that to me just is that just hits all the right beats. I love that song.
Yeah, it's I was going to say there's nothing really different, and like you said, the amount of thrash that's out there, and there's a lot of subpar stuff, and some of it you'll appreciate, but when you get bands that know how to do it and know the formula and know how to do it right, with sound and as well, and can play, and also having the main part is having the vocals. So I've listened to a lot of thrash, and the vocals are trying to that's the weak spot most of the times. Usually have like a guitarist who can play pretty fucking good. Drummer's not too bad, but the vocals always lets it down. But when you do get that, he's inspiration from 80s thrash comes through, and you have that some like mild thrash classics. That's definitely what brought to near. So even with it even had remnants of like early Malmsteen. So some of the riffs.
Yeah,
so
no, I agree.
It's decent.
The thing for me is sometimes it's not necessarily originality that's a thing, because originality, in fairness, it's in relatively short supply nowadays, because there's so many bands and so much has already been done. However, very often the magic sits in the execution, and to me,
the execution, man, exactly. If you've studied the formula of thrash, and you can pull it off in a fucking tasteful way, not a fucking tacky, fucking really discrediting the genre way. If you can pull it all off in those those ticks, then mate, you'll do all right. Same with Early Havoc, man. Look at them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well,
lost their way.
That carries a thumbs up for me without a doubt. I love it. I think it's great.
Yep.
Okay, let's find us another one. Well, I've spoken many times about my thoughts on Lamb of God. Let's hear what this new single sounds like that they've just put out. I didn't listen to the previous one, but
you're punishing me, man. Oh yeah, you got me on here to fucking punish me.
I'm not a fan of Randy Blythe, because I think he's just he's a blowhard who loves the sound of his own voice. But musically, I actually quite like Lamb of God. I actually enjoy everything they've put out. I thought every album was good, and some of them are actually great, excluding the previous one. I thought the previous one was a misfire, but you never know. They might
I respect Sacrament and possibly Wraith, but Sacrament West is like, I will say that's a cracker album, and that's saying because of the execution. Will say that we've been that word. That's the buzzword of the day: execution.
Execution. All right. Well, let's hear if they can execute this. So, Blunt Force Blues is the latest new single from Lamb of God's upcoming full-length effort Into Oblivion. It has debuted online in the form of an official visualizer video. Like I said, previous album I thought stank, but everything prior to that, I've got some love for.
Look, if that's your fucking deal, and you love your little Whitechapels, and you love your little, let's get into the mosh pit and swing our arms and kick out, that's for you, mate. But that is poo.
Yeah,
that's poo.
Look, again, For reference, I mentioned earlier, I like this stuff. My favorite Lamb of God
Yeah.
album is Ashes of the Wake. There are some hard songs on that record. Break You is being a track that is just absolutely brilliant. Remorse is for the Dead, fucking brilliant. Again, though, comes
You know
back
what?
to
Like
that,
stuff like this. Yeah, stuff like it started off alright, but this track, you could say I've heard this track before. That's like that's how I see it. I've heard this before. Someone else has done it, and that's it. It's nothing exciting. It's nothing good. Steve, it's got no flair. You know, drum wise, there's stock standard.
Well, what I was hearing there, and this is why I thought of Ashes of the Wake. I was hearing a band riffing off old ideas that date back to Ashes of the Wake, and presenting it as guys that just don't really have as much passion for what they do today as they did in those days. Like if you listen to Ashes of the Wake, there's genuine, palpable emotion, anger, aggression. There's there's balls to the music, and this is just like you say. I've heard it 1,000 times before. It frankly could be AI based on a bunch of Lamb of God.
That's right.
Songs from yesteryear.
Yeah. I swear they've used that riff. That star riff is about, they've overused that. I've heard that many times throughout their history.
Well, I mean, we don't have to dwell on that much beyond just officially awarding it a, I wouldn't give it a brown down, but it definitely gets a thumbs down. I've got a couple of questions from
bringing back the cross, bro.
I've got a couple of questions sent in by the Legion that I want us to talk about today as well. And this next question, I think, ties in quite nicely to what we just heard. Top tier metal punk has asked, do you see metal becoming even more popular in opposition to AI? What are your thoughts on that?
Or in opposition to AI? Look, if you could, it's all about prediction. It's all about what's happening right now, what's relevant. AI tools, what's coming out, making it very hard to distinguish. How do you make that clarification? Have this, the opposition with it? I don't think it's really relevant. I think it's going to be, there won't be an opposition. It's going to be something you're going to have to pay more attention to, if it's not or is. And it won't be a genre that people will start turning to because of it. I don't know. It's more of the foreseeable future with it, I'd say.
Yeah, I have a theory around people kind of or this pushback against automation, digitalization, and now AI, and what it leads to in society. I saw it actually in the food scene here in the UK. When I first came to the UK, going to eat at Nando's was kind of the biggest, the best treat that you could enjoy. The restaurant scene, the food scene was pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
Then, Man vs. Food and drive-ins, diners, and dives and shows like that came out, and all of a sudden, all these tiny little pop-ups started showing up all over the place. And those pop-ups evolved into little mom-and-pop restaurants, owner-run restaurants, and now London has got one of the most insane food scenes on the face of the earth. Like, you're so spoiled for choice here, regardless of what kind of cuisine you're interested in. But the at the core of it is, none of it is franchised. None of it is, I mean, there are chains, but the ones that are the most successful are not chains. There's something organic and there's something craft made about it. So I think that, as AI becomes more pervasive in the arts, I definitely think there's going to be this societal swing towards placing greater value in something that was made by a human being, and that is, quote unquote, craft made. Because
exactly.
We were talking about soul in that Lamb of God track earlier. The AI, no matter what AI does, there's never going to be soul in an AI song. You're never ever gonna get the feels that you get from High on Fire or Crowbar or Mayhem or Akakaka or all my favorite.
Absolutely.
Shit. You're never gonna get that in an AI song. I just absolutely fundamentally believe that. Now, does that mean that metal is going to be more popular as a whole? My personal opinion is I don't think so. I think metal's audience, I predict, will stay relatively stable. I don't think it's going to get bigger, but I don't think it's going to get much smaller either.
Definitely won't. It just keeps growing. That's totally evident, and it's evident of like let's look at your podcast, the popularity of that's growing. You know, like everything grows, and it's the younger generation. You know, for myself, trying even my young fellow, like trying to promote to keep the flame alive. But yeah, that's the thing. What I think about in the background is the new gen coming through that are already tapping into AI and don't really recognize the value that we do of those two comparisons, and they just the acceptance of it. So I don't think people are going to like necessarily. I think it will stay, like you said, stay steady. And it'll just be like a real choice and like a nostalgic thing, upon individuals.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's just our future.
That's an excellent point, because I hear a lot about young people at shows, but I got to be honest with you, whenever I'm at shows, I don't see a huge number of young people. I see a lot of people with graying hair and people that are losing their hair. I see a lot of people that are my age, but
80%.
I'm not seeing a ton of young people.
So that's what I'm saying. Those next gen that come through and are actually born into this new phase of humanity. Everyone's stressed out about computers back in the day and said, "Oh, that's it. We're going to lose. Humans are going to lose jobs, and because we've got computers now, so accessible, and then it can do so much, and we created more jobs because of it." But that hysteria at the time was exactly the same what it is now for AI. It's like, but the relevance to that is like, I just heard yesterday there was companies here that just have, I can't remember which company it is, but they sacked like 3,000 people. They've gone to AI.
Here's a prediction for you, and I might be completely wrong on this, but on March 1st, 2026, this is what I predicted. I think if we talk about the workforce, and just to make this, I don't want to go back to turning this into 45 minutes on the economy, but here's a workforce prediction for you. I think there's a natural friction within organizations between the CFO's office, between the finance department and the rest of the business. The finance department very often look at it in terms of, and understandably so, because that's just the way their job operates. They look at businesses in terms of line items on a spreadsheet. They're going to see an opportunity for cost savings. This will be across most businesses. That cost saving will principally be in removing people, because they'll say we're gaining a lot of productivity from AI. And in some cases, they're absolutely correct. In some cases, they're going to be wrong. I think there'll be a cycle of that happening that starts probably around the middle of this year. You're already starting to see it, like you just said now. Your example, there was also Block, who's run by Jack Dorsey, who used to run Twitter. They let 4,000 people go the other day. And I mean, they're not in financial trouble. There's no reason for them to let people go other than the stated fact that they say they've got productivity gains from AI.
What's going to happen? Came out and said it blatantly. Said it.
Yeah, exactly. So what will then happen is we're going to get to the end of 2027, because usually these cycles run for about 18 months. We'll get to the end of 2027, and then there's going to be something called AI regret that kicks in. And they're going to realize that actually the productivity gains were miscalculated, and oh my God, now we need to hire people back. And then there's going to be this surge of hiring like you had straight after COVID. And, you'll see the newspaper will call it something moronic, like the Great Regret or some shit like that. But there'll definitely be a surge of hiring in end of 2027, beginning of 2028, as they try and make up lost ground for maybe over-indexing what they thought AI could give them. AI, in my view, is always going to be about human augmentation. It's not going to be about human replacement. Not entirely. There'll be certain parts, certain businesses that are displaced, and God knows the fucking public sector could do with a severe amount of displacement as a result of AI. But it's never going to take humans away completely. And like you say, it's gonna replace jobs that are going with new jobs. We just don't know what those jobs are yet. But we had the same paranoia during when the digital age kicked in, we have the same paranoia when the fucking industrial age kicked in. And generally speaking, there's that evolution that takes place where it always leads to something else. Again, I spoke to the Magus about it on the interview that we had, or that people have heard earlier on this episode. And I said this idea that people live this life of abundance and they, sit around with nothing to do but spend their money and enjoy themselves. That sounds like fucking hell on earth to me. Can you just imagine the level of depravity and the fucking bullshit that will breed out when people have nothing to do and money?
We live in a vain society. It's all about image and look and what sells. You just go on any socials, whatever, there's those ads, and it's just all about buying. So it's the temptations and to try and be, you can't stop it. It's always going to be relevant, and it's diminishing brain function severely. Becoming a lazy society. Everything's too hard. There's no drive. You can just see it every day. Like especially having like young people in my life, and I just look at the way they are, and I can see the spectrum of giving a shit in some areas because they're just so blasé. It's like, no, like mum and dad will do that, or they're just like, myself, like at 15, I was homeless and I was fending for myself. I was getting myself a job and stuff like that. And now, like, I work with a girl who won't go to the doctors without her mum because she's too scared to talk to the doctor. She doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And she's in her 20s, like early 20s. And I was like, what do you mean? You take your mum? She goes, yeah, I just get nervous and I don't know what to say.
My kids, my child and any future children I have, they need to know Dad's got expensive taste in cars and in hi-fi. So
but you will work for that.
There's going to be limits to how much you get helped.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. We got to spoil ourselves with those. But they're big ticket items. They're like bucket lists.
Yeah. No,
they're not just a given. That's my point. Is like these younger generation. I just think it's just given without doing anything for it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's check out another song. So news reaches us here of Sepultura finalizing details of their new EP. Their final EP, as I understand it, just in time for the conclusion of their final world tour later this year. They say Sepultura will release their brand new EP, The Cloud of Unknowing, on April the 24th, 2026 via Nuclear Blast Records. A lyric video for the album single, The Place, is available now. I got to tell you, in the backdrop of the news about Megadeth retiring and maybe a few other things going on in metal, I feel like the Sepultura grand finale is just something that no one gives a shit about. I don't know what the attendance at the shows have been like, but it feels very much, I get the sense of indifference from the vast majority of people about this.
Yeah, the end of Sepultura, how many farewell tours you're going to do, and try to exploit that whole side of the business. It runs thin after a while, and people just don't give a shit. It's like, mate, that time is gone. We've already accepted the fact that we don't, like, that's it. Too many issues there, Andreas, and everything. Like, just let it go. Green's left. Let's just go. It's just, and people just look through it. It's like, oh, he's going to take my money.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that positive note, let's check out this new single. It's called The Place, and again, historic, because this is potentially the last music released under the Sepultura banner that we're ever going to hear. So let's hear what they cooked up. gone from under pale grey skies we shall arise to this fucking bullshit.
Wow, man. I thought I was listening to a jam session. You know, that's the first riff is the riff that you play when you go to a band practice and you just want to get into the, you know, hands moving and that, and everything sounds shit. That's the one.
I've got to tell you, it's it's just, I'm kind of lost for words. Like, how can you put out something?
I was too, eh?
After such a career. Oh, look, and by the way, I've said this before. I actually like quite a bit of the stuff from the Derek Green era. I don't consider it to be prime
same.
Sepultura.
Yeah, I don't want it.
But I've always appreciated the fact that, you know, when Derek Green joined, there was always a fearlessness around doing whatever they wanted to do. And, you know, very often those experiments, if you take away the millstone around their neck of having to live up to the legacy of Beneath the Remains and Arise, some of that stuff was genuinely good. Still believe they should have they should have restarted the band and gone under a different name. It would have suited them way better. But that is what it is. But there's songs on Kairos. There's songs on The Mediator Between Head and Hands, Must Be the Heart. There's songs on Rawback, especially on Nation, that are really, really good. I don't know what becomes of this song after the 2 minute or the 2 minute or 26 second mark that we got to right now. But at the moment, it just sounds like a plodding mess.
I lost my train of thought because I was so lost for words. I was like, what the fuck was I going to say?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm boggled by that. I don't get it, and I don't to bring out the first single off, like, I don't know, it's a fucking EP. Leave your single in your butthole. It's an EP. Just release it, and that's it. Like, this is that's ridiculous. That is. Yeah, look at the quality that's coming out this year, every year. But if you look at the top tier shit, and I love it underground. This stuff is like this. People laugh at this. It's the Sepultura banners flying above it. It's poo. It's shit. It's not even worth. Like, if I came from one of our, you know, top tier bands, we would go, "What the fuck is this?" We'd actually reach out to them and say, "Wake up!
There's something wrong with you."
Yeah, fucking hell, mate.
Yeah.
So you know,
put this out on a dare.
You could fly under banners and do what you want. And if I know it's a money game behind it all, and that's that echelon. But fuck, have some respect for the name.
Yeah, agree. On the topic of great music coming out and what this year is shaping up to be like, I was looking the other day at because I keep a running list of my favorite albums so that it's it's easier for me to pull everything together for the top 30 every single year. This year, I've got a short list of 10 already down, where if I look at the names in that top 10, like say that were the top 10 as it is right now, there's only 10 albums on the short list, but say that became the top 10, that would not be bad. That would be a pretty amazing year. Just to give people a flavor of what's on there. Mayhem, Liturgy of Death. Misotheist, I spoke about that last week. There's that new album of theirs, Depinta, fucking incredible. Slagmar, Holder's Ritual, that came out this past Friday. Really, really digging that. I've always felt like Slagmar's previous work was a little unfocused, but the new stuff, outstanding. Necrofire, Transcend into Transcend into Oblivion. That's out on Metal Blade Records, came out this Friday. Fantastic. New Ruins of Beverast I really like. And then, I mean, stuff that I haven't heard yet, but I know would make the cut. Immolation, Descent. I mean, that's no question.
I can't wait for that, man.
I can't. Record.
I don't think I'm thinking about nothing else except for that at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's going to be superb. I'm going to play you something else in a second that it doesn't look like they featured it on Metal Storm, so I'll just find it on YouTube. But it's a song you have to hear. It's a song everyone has to hear. That album definitely will be a top 10 contender for the year. And then there's two that I've heard that I'm sworn to secrecy on, but I can assure folks I'll reveal it when the albums are released, or when I'm allowed to speak about it. But both those albums will be, some of the best stuff that people are going to hear all year. So it has been a unfucking real year so far. What are you digging on at the moment, like new release wise?
Oh, well, I've been going back and forth from Fossilization and Ectovoid at the moment with a few other. I listen to a lot of, like, I don't know, I leave my mix of like 90s death metal. I don't know. It's just and then I'll just throw in some new shit. And trying to find the time to do that, I will say with my schedule, I do miss out on a lot of stuff. And it's only when I listen, what you're mentioning, what gets sent over, I'll listen to. But yeah, basically the last, say, 2 weeks is, Fossilization's got a lot of airplay. And then Active Void, there's a few others there. I can't think of the top of my head. But yeah, it's more the deathy sort of cavernous death metal realm.
Mm-hmm. Well, so tell me what you think of this. So I mentioned this was a record that I predict is going to be in the top 10 of 2026. Aversio Humanitatis are putting out their new album, finally getting announced. I had mentioned for a couple of successive years now that I was looking forward to them putting out something new. Finally announced their new record. It comes out on April the 24th, 2026 on Deborah Morty. It's called To Become the Endless Static. They've just put out the first single off this record, and it hit me in places that I that I like to be hit in. So let me give you 2 minutes of what this.
Please explain, mate. Please explain.
If you're a true member of the Legion and you haven't immediately gone to pre-order this album, I don't know what to say to you. That is fucking brilliant. Brilliant.
It is. And I've only heard it on live with the shit sound. So
yeah.
I'll be listening to this after this get off with you. But yeah, man, that's wild. That's heavy. That's like emotionally charged.
Yeah.
As well. And that clip is like the perfect match to the track as well. So you get that insight to the actual band and the music. It just translates perfectly. They've done a cracker job with that. But the music is, I'm looking forward to that one, mate.
This is what black metal is supposed to sound like. I've had questions before about where I think the scene is going and what I'd like to. I mean, there was a question the other day from a mutual acquaintance of ours, Courtney Stark, who asked me what I'd like to see more or less of in the scene. And I mean, as long as bands keep putting out music of this quality, the black metal scene is very healthy. Yes, there's going to be this, this undercurrent of dreck, poser bands pretending to be black metal that just make a bunch.
Every genre's got it. Yeah.
Well, I'm just about to say, every single scene has got it.
Every genre, you just don't know it.
100%. I don't have to listen to that stuff. So, what I want to listen to is music like this. And again, there's no way you can hear something like this and not go, holy shit, there's some real talent in modern black metal.
That's just huge sound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that was like I said, yeah, go.
That earns conservatively speaking, that earns a beyond top notch. Just absolutely phenomenal. I will be fucking shocked if that is not one of the.
What was the last beyond top notch you put?
I think Mayhem. I think the last Mayhem album was the last beyond top notch.
It's very rare. It's just very rare.
It is. Yeah. It is. They're saved for special occasions.
I love it.
We're going to get into this new Nun Slaughter track in just a second. I know a lot of people have been super excited about that. But first, another question from the Legion. And this is another one I was keen to discuss with you. Devster666 asks, if you could travel back in time and meet your teenage self, what advice would you give him? Since we're both seasoned gentlemen, I think there's probably a fair bit. Now, I've already pondered this question, so while you think of your answer, let me say what I would do. So I do 4 things. Number 1, I would teach my younger self the financial principle of compounding. Again, don't need this to be a lesson on how to use your money, but personally speaking, I was a bit more fast and loose with how I spent my money as a young man than I should have been. And I think had I known what I know about investing and money now, I would have been a lot closer to retirement than I am presently. Second thing, I would teach myself one very important lesson. Do not pursue for any reason whatsoever a particular girl or this idea of Hollywood influenced romance and love. Only thing that you should pursue as a young man is excellence in every respect, whether it's professionally, whether it's physically. If you focus on pursuing personal excellence every single day of your life, you will end up meeting so many women or having so many people interested in you that when you do make a decision on somebody that you want to include in your life, it'll be coming from a place of strength, not from a place of need. But adding someone to your life from a place of need always leads to fucking misery. And I don't know how many people are listening to this right now that need to hear that. Some people will hear it and sort of, might roll their eyes and go, oh, old Jackson is on one again. But I tell you, from my personal experience, I bumped my head, on at least 2 occasions very, very hard and caused myself a huge amount of heartache because I didn't follow that principle. So that's one thing that I would teach myself. The next 2, maybe slightly less consequential, but I would certainly encourage my younger self to get into weightlifting and Muay Thai much earlier than I did. I started to train seriously in weights and started to train seriously with Muay Thai when I was about 25. So I think had I done that 10 years earlier, again, it would have benefited me physically a lot more than starting at a late age. Still proof that you can start at any time, but I would have started earlier. And then something else I would have started earlier is the podcast that you are listening to. I had toyed with the idea of doing something like Into the Necrosphere for at least 10 years before it actually came off the ground. And I think had I started it 10 years prior, again, think of where we could be today. But again, everything works out for a reason. The stars aligned and the timing, came about, probably at the right time. But I definitely would have encouraged myself to do it sooner than I ended up doing it.
I like it. That's solid. And I'll have to agree with the major one I actually say, and you mentioned it, was be selectful in your decisions on your partner for life, because I will tell you firsthand, I actually wasted 20 years of my life thinking because I was below some kind of threshold of someone wanting me that I just took anything that was interested in me and just went, that'll do, and good luck to me. And that ended my music career. So this is the correlation of that end of my music career, which was already kicking off and it was about to hit off real well, and my decision on that, with a partner didn't follow me or support me, hated music, and me, the dumbass, So that's, I'll give it all up. My friends, I'll give them up too. You know, stupid young decisions. Like, you are not even in the caliber of making a life decision at the age of 23 up to 30. It's in that realm. You don't even know yourself. Know yourself. Number one rule, know yourself and what you like, and never change what you like. Obviously adapt, but when someone comes along and says, no, I don't want you to do that anymore, blah, 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 there's a difference there. Doesn't respect your taste or what your goals are, and in turn hinders your progress moving forward. And that even goes into your work life as well. So, you know, life is about support from your closest. And if you don't have that, then you really will suffer. And I definitely did, and lost everything. So to have someone now that supports me in everything that I do, and I wouldn't be on this podcast, wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't for that person and me invigorating my music career and art and blah, blah, blah. And now my, you know, even my work career is just exploding. So just be wise when you're young. If you are there and you're a young dude, and I know there's all those other people out there our age, be going, fucking oath, mate.
The thing
Don't
also,
do it.
It's the principle carries through to how you invest your time in anything, right? You only have a limited amount of time, so invest your time in something that's worthwhile, that you're going to get a return on. But you know, a lot of guys that I know, as I said, they bumped their heads really hard because they bought into this idea of the John Cusack character from Say Anything, you know, that really lame romantic comedy in the late, I think it was the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
They believe that is, that character has nobility. That character doesn't have nobility or dignity. And the guy that does that in real life is the guy that gets, you know, toyed with, you know, chewed up and spat out. And then he ends up either a fucking bitter old wreck, or, you know, he makes the decision to get his act together. So, you know, again, I know the age profile of people that listen to this podcast. So I you know, I don't think there's a huge number of us who are, or huge number of our brethren in our teens. But if you are a teenager, take it from two salty dogs. We know what we're talking about. And you absolutely nailed it, by the way, Matt. There's nothing that'll fuck your life up quicker than choosing the wrong romantic or even worse life partner. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll chuck in one more because it's a funny one. I don't think I've admitted this to many people, but I'll admit this to the Legion. Don't, when you're like, I think I was 14, 15, don't think you can just ring the vocalist of your favorite band and spend all day and night trying to contact him, because it doesn't work. All right, let's dive into some more music. Nunslaughter reveal new album details. Cleveland death metal band Nunslaughter have announced their debut album for Black to Black, entitled Satanic Chaos Legions. Love that name. Scheduled for release on June the 26th. The band has also revealed the title track from their upcoming album, along with an official music video available to watch right now.
We're coming to kill Christ. Everywhere beneath the moon's red glow.
I love it. The fucking chorus
enjoy it.
is fucking sick, mate. I heard this week, man. I was just like, this is fucking rad. This is fun. This is like an anthem album.
Yeah.
And I love it. But it's just fierce and that fucking like punchy. It's just fucking banger riffs, punchy riffs, shit that just makes you fucking wanna mosh. That's you know they've got the combination to fucking make your day a lot better.
And when they hit that breakdown at the 90-second mark, fucking
Filth.
brilliant. Just
filthy, mate. Filthy. Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. That's to say it. Fucking execution, brother.
Yeah. No, I think really, really good stuff. Interesting about Black to Black. So I think were they the band? They're certainly credited with doing it, but they were the sorry, I said band. Were they the label that put out the new Megadeth album or the final Megadeth album? It certainly seems that way.
I think, yeah, it sounds familiar. I don't know for sure, but
just looking at
does sound familiar.
Just looking at Metal Archives right now, I think they are the label that released the final Megadeth record. Now, the question that I've got is, how does old Dave feel about sharing a label with Nunslaughter, considering his views on Sarkistolis from Rotting Christ?
Well, maybe you paid for Nunslaughter's production. I don't know. Fucking yeah, man. Like, I mean, yeah. Like, I wouldn't want to, like, I don't know. Just because it's fucking Dave, I wouldn't want him on my label. But, I mean, if you're going to get a few more pennies to help other bands, go for it. But it seems odd.
Yeah.
It might be the only label that wanted to take it.
Maybe. Okay, all right. Next up, we've got Winterfilleth revealing a new track. The first single of this album I really enjoyed. They've now put out a second. UK atmospheric black metal outfit Winterfilleth have unveiled Echoes in the After, the second single from their upcoming 9th studio album, The Unyielding Season. The album is set for release on March the 27th via Napalm Records, serves as a thematic successor to 2024's The Imperious Horizon. One of the things I think that has really benefited Winterfilleth massively, it was the case on the Imperious Horizon. It absolutely seems to be the case on the new material, and that is that they have increased very significantly the severity of their songs. They've retained, I think, a lot of the best atmospheric elements that kind of made them Winterfilleth and brought them to the dance. But they've also let it make space, or they've created space in their music for a bit more aggression, a bit more punch. Quite where that comes from, I don't know, but I think it suits them really, really well. And to me, that's another winner. I love the first single. This one to me is on a par with that. So it gets a definite thumbs up, probably a top notch for me.
Yeah, it's what to expect from Winterfilleth. Nothing but class. It's it's not my entire cup of tea. But yeah, definitely the respect there, and just the professionalism of the guys. Yeah, it's top notch. You can't.
The thing is, I liked their earlier material, but they were never a band that they were never a go-to band for me, because if you think of, I think people have a pretty reasonable profile of what I like and what I listen to a lot. But yeah, so they were never a band that I would naturally gravitate towards, with the exception of the Imperious Horizon. And this album to me sounds like something else that I would just naturally go to a lot more. It sounds a lot more up my street, but it still sounds like them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just for me, like even though I'm not a huge fan of it, I can respect it for what it is and how how good it is and talented they are.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right, we're nearly coming to the end of things, but I wanted to talk to you about this actually and get your take on it. Did you see the video that John from Incantation posted on Instagram, where he basically asked people for food donations because the hospitality was not up to par on the tour that they were on right now, and the suggestion seemed to be that they weren't making enough money from the tour to be able to feed themselves properly.
I missed this one.
Okay, well,
but that sounds
sit tight and let's watch this video very quickly.
It's a pre-swirly, this one.
I'd love to get your take on it.
Just want to let people know that our hospitality kind of sucks on this tour. I don't know what the deal is, but we haven't been getting much from the clubs. I don't know. They're tightening up the belts or whatever's going on. So this is a little announcement saying that at our merch table, we'll be accepting your non-perishable food items so we could stock our bandwagon with some food for us. It's kind of a joke, but it also is really kind of strange that it's been so tight on this tour, but it is. And so if anybody feels like bringing some food on over, go for it. We're all about it, because you basically just get a buyout, which is about enough to pay for most of a meal each day. And I figure maybe someone out there, I don't know, might have some badass food that they want to bring out to the show. So we're accepting. So thank you very much. And hopefully we see you guys at the show. And just drop it off at for Kyler at our merch table. And we'll gladly accept it. We're also accepting bottled water. And I don't know. I mean, they probably can't bring beer into the club or anything, but and if you can't get in the club, I don't know, just hit us up or something and we'll pick it up outside. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's the way it goes sometimes. It's all good. This isn't a slag on any bands or promoters or anybody, but the fact is like we're not getting shit. So why the hell not ask people who might have a little more to hook us up, because we are on a shoestring budget on this tour. So fuck it. Well, thank you guys, and see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
And if anyone's got guitars laying around, you bring those too, and a new van. And we've got a couple of flat tires. So Michelin, you be able to hit me up for that? Fuck me, mate. Dead set. The list keeps going. Like, look at the guy, mate. Like, look at him.
Yeah.
Like, I love that music. But fuck, mate, he's not famished. He's not famished. He's looking pretty damn fucking healthy. I swear he's got wax in his fucking beard too. I don't think this guy is telling the truth, mate.
I got to say, I mean, you know, my initial reaction to this was, holy shit, that really sucks. Like, you know, what's gone wrong on this tour that they're not in a position to be able to feed themselves. But then you start to break, like, you know, then your logical brain kicks in and you start to do the math and you go, but hang on, are you telling me that you're not making enough money off this tour to be able to pay for a like $50 a day for food for yourself? I mean, surely your daily per diem is $50. I mean, even if it's not
the
$50,
list,
$25.
Oh, the list is man. Well, the list keeps going, and it's almost trivial for him to say, like, oh, if you know, we might as well just push it a bit more. If you have this, and if you want to do that, and the US is out of water now, the taps aren't running.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake, man, that's embarrassment. Like, fuck.
Yeah, look, dude.
That's disgraceful.
Let me be pragmatic and say I really hope that things have not gotten so bad for them that they can't feed themselves. I mean, genuinely, no one deserves to go through something like that. But I mean, you'd have to be playing to audiences of 20 a night, I think, for that to be the case. And also, we were talking earlier about advice you would give your teenage self. Here's advice I would give anybody around my age. Dude, it is a terrible look for you as a man to be on social media basically panhandling, begging for
touring, man. I don't think there's a homeless man on the street who'd be more appreciative for 50 cents. But this guy here, they're on a full band on tour, thousands of dollars of gear. If you're that desperate, sell a fucking guitar or something. I don't know. Like, and if your tour management can't set you up with with food for the tour, or if it's up to your standard of food, I don't know how he fucking eats, but I'm pretty sure he has a fucking lot of tomahawks. That's your problem, mate. This is the tour life. No one ever like goes up tour, right? And comes and says, fucking Gordon Ramsay fucking came around with us and we had the best meals ever.
Yeah.
They are shit. It is shit. You're eating on the run, and if you can't plan for that, they've toured 50,000 times over 40 years.
Yeah,
and now you're beggars.
100%. I've no disrespect to John. I like him. I've had him on the podcast. I'm with you. I like his music very much too.
Yeah,
but it's a bad look, and it does not logically make sense to me.
Yeah,
how you could be so hard up for money that
it's just the part B.
That you have to be asking your fans on on social media for handouts.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's just bad taste. It's bad publicity for the band.
All right, let's do one last track before we wrap up. And you were talking earlier about liking yourself some 90s death metal, so let's check out a new track by Monstrosity. So, before their new record Screams from Beneath the Surface officially drops on March the 13th, death metal veterans Monstrosity offer in listening another new track in preview called The Atrophied.
Rifle from skin skies, shadow of its bending
Does that meet with your exacting standards when it comes to old school sounding death metal?
Yeah, you know, I heard this like last week, right? I think it was last week, and because Immolation punched their single out,
Hmm.
I don't know why, but I automatically put a comparison, and it kind of fucked my first listen to this, and I was like, oh, it's not really cutting the mustard against Immolation, but it's good, but it's just not even close to what the Immolation's from that single. Like it's really good. I like it, and you know what era of finesse they've come from. But yeah, it's very good. I like it. It's nothing outstanding, but it's just your standard with just a whole range of elements over the course of their career with the 3,000 members.
Yeah, I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised by that first single.
Yeah.
Second one, I'd say probably not as cool as that first single, but still good, still enjoyable.
Yeah, solid.
No question, like you say, no question where they, what era they hail from originally. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is delivered with a degree of intensity, passion, and just just entertainment value that is very hard to deny.
That's right. It's just solid. Like you're going to get a solid listen from start to finish. It's got just brutal, fierce. This is like just you know what it's like. It's like an intermission of a Cannibal Corpse album, because they do try to emulate that in some sense, in some degree. So it's like this little entree before the main.
Well, here's a question for you in that regard. Ed Webb, their vocalist, how close do you think he sounds like to George Corpse Fisher?
Well, I'm pretty sure he plays every Cannibal Corpse album George has done, and has, especially the highs. Yeah. I've noticed the highs are really developing, and it's very, very similar. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. No. I love it. I want a vocalist that can have that variety and variance in their vocals. Just makes more interesting listen, amplifies the music. Has gives it more relevance. So
I definitely feel like if you played it to people that weren't overly familiar with the genre, I'm not talking like total civilians.
Oh, they think the same guy.
They would think it's the same dude. No question about it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm talking to sense comparative, but yeah, that's what I mean. He's definitely been in the background, been singing Cannibal Corpse albums, and just learn a few tricks on Georgie.
It's not a slight. If somebody told me you sound exactly the same as Glenn Benton on the first Deicide album, I'd go, thank you so much for the compliment.
Thank you very much.
It's not a
I'd be like George Costanza and end it with a good joke and we'll fuck off.
Leave. Yeah. But it's he does sound an awful lot like him. All right. So we're done with the music for the week. Time to wrap up, but not before I issue another scathing Swirly of the week. No. Oh, you like? All right, the Swirly of the week this week goes out to really a collective of people. But let me start with a preamble. To be taken seriously, you need to behave like a serious person. Back in 1991, a very serious movie entitled The Silence of the Lambs was released. It is, to this day, one of my very favorite films ever. It is partly a masterpiece because it presents the psychopathy of a serial murderer with complete and utter unflinching detail and grit. If you know anything about serial killers, as I do, I mean, I spent a big chunk of my my adolescent years wanting to become a criminal profiler. So, I've read up a huge amount about serial killers, and I don't think that there's a single movie that in the Buffalo Bill character presents a serial killer with more precision and more accuracy than Jonathan Demme and the filmmakers did with this film. That is, notwithstanding the fact that it also has career best performances by Jodie Foster, by Anthony Hopkins, the overall direction, feel, cinematography, everything is absolutely tier one. And then, of course, you've got the immortalization of one of the greatest 80s songs ever produced, Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus. You are a fan of Silence of the Lambs, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's you want to be a profiler, I just want to be a serial killer.
You were watching Buffalo Bill and saying, I
want to
your
buy
move there.
You know what? Every time I see a Bedford van, I go, that's Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill. He's in there. I know. Watch out for that van. Yeah, man. It's a classic. It's the one movie that, dude, like, you, after watching that, you were hesitant going out in the dark, man. Like, this was fucking done to perfection to really fuck with you. Visually, it's, like I said, it just ticked all the boxes. Great direction, great fucking screenplay, great cast. It just nailed every single part of that genre. It created the genre, 100%. Really.
Well, it created the genre, and kind of like The Exorcist when it comes to possession films, it's never been beaten.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say 7 came reasonably close, but didn't beat it. It is to serial killer films, serial killer thrillers, what The Exorcist is to possession movies. It is the benchmark by which everything else that has ever and will ever be released in that genre gets measured. Now,
absolutely.
To really,
can I say one thing? Just put out there how many people after watching that tucked their old fella between their legs. I did.
Well, that brings us quite squarely to some of the decidedly unserious behavior that we see surrounding this film 35 years later.
Yeah, right.
I started noticing it about 2 years ago, and recently it's picked up steam again in the shape of a couple of articles that were released on Page 6, Collider, the worst fucking newspaper of all time, The Independent, and then The Hollywood Reporter. Titles like Silence of the Lambs team on criticism from trans fans, from trans people. There's regret. Silence of the Lambs star Ted Levine apologizes after transgender criticism. Silence of the Lambs star acknowledges unfortunate dialogue. And then you also start to see, when you look into it, garbage like this appearing on YouTube. This was a video about Silence of the Lambs posted by a YouTuber named Sally Pride Drag.
Transphobe or ally, Silence of the Lambs edition. Clarice is a TERF. This is a TERF film after. Hannibal is a transphobe because they misgender the next character on this list. Buffalo Bill. Trans, but not a very good representation. It was made by people who don't understand what being trans is.
So the intellect on display on that video is pretty evident. I mean, if you break it down by the points that this individual has made, firstly, there is absolutely nothing in the dialogue or character of Jodie Foster that suggests trans exclusionary radical feminist in any way, shape, or form.
She's in training.
Is the Clarice Starling character, someone that you could consider a feminist icon? Absolutely. If I, as a father of a 11-year-old daughter, if there's a film character that I would like her to aspire to be like, the short list is Clarice Starling, as portrayed by Jodie Foster, Ripley of Alien and Aliens, and then Sarah Connor. Those are the three genuinely strong, authentic female heroes that you would go, yeah, that's what I would love my daughter to aspire to be like.
Females you wouldn't fuck with. That's what it.
Exactly. There is absolutely nothing trans exclusionary about anything that Clarice Starling does over the course of the entire fucking movie. Then, what's his name? Hannibal Lecter is referred to as a transphobe because he misgenders Buffalo Bill. They make it very clear in the movie that Buffalo Bill is not transgender. No. There's a pointed part of the dialogue where they say he is not a transsexual. If you later on in the movie when they show his basement lair, there's Polaroids of him, and I watched the movie last night, so I know. I'm not misremembering this. There's Polaroids of him, you know, sitting around with strippers. He's got fucking Nazi memorabilia all over the place, American flags, all sorts. There's nothing about him that anyone who's not fucking insane would look at and go, oh, you know, he is a transgender character, but just not a very good representation. I honestly think that if you feel any degree of offense watching this as a trans person, I would like to see the contents of your hard drive. The fact that we are in this place where fucking complete idiots can dig up movies from 35 years ago and look for things that they find upsetting or offensive, and then the rest of the world have to buckle, bow, and apologize, I find completely and utterly absurd. Don't misunderstand me. This is not... I'm not saying anything transphobic here. How you live your life is, you know, your own fucking business. As long as you stay out of my life. But two things here. Number one, it is an absolute disgrace that Ted Levine apologized for something that he absolutely should not have apologized for, because there is nothing in his character that any fucking sane human being could deem offensive. And secondly, if you hold any view remotely like the ones propagated here by Sally Pride Drag, who honestly, if this were 35 years ago, you would have looked at that, you would have gone, the writers of Mad Magazine came up with that. That is satire. That's a Saturday Night Live sketch. But if you hold anything like this and you try and put it forth as a serious point, I cannot treat you as a serious person. What I can do, though, is line you up, unfortunately, alongside Ted Levine, and have you march up to the toilet bowl of justice for a double Melvin and a dip down the well, down the toilet well. And that, my friends, is the Swirly of the week. All right, my man. Great to talk to you as always.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks, guys.
Show.
You're very much welcome.
I'll be back next week. I want to say thank you once again to every single member of the Legion for sticking around until the very end if you've done so. Whatever it is you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.